On March 6, 1957, Ghana made history as the first sub-Saharan African country to achieve independence from colonial rule under the leadership of visionary Kwame Nkrumah. During Nkrumah's reign, Ghana actively supported liberation movements against European colonialism and emerged as a central hub of Pan-Africanism. The country experienced significant development, economic growth, and formed alliances with socialist nations. However, Nkrumah was overthrown in a 1966 coup staged by Colonel Emmanuel Kwesi Kotoka and Major Akwesi Afrifa. Kotoka was killed in a counter-coup attempt on April 17, 1967 by two junior officers. The two officers responsible were publicly executed by a firing squad. Subsequently, a military government called the National Liberation Council emerged under the leadership of General A.K. Ankara and took control after the 1966 coup. The NLC, composed of military officers and civil servants, aimed to stabilize the country and promised a swift return to civilian rule. During its rule, the NLC focused on restoring stability and addressing the corruption that plagued Ghana during Nkrumah's reign. They undertook measures to revitalize the economy. However, the NLC was marked by authoritarianism and human rights abuses. In 1969, General Ankara was removed from power and replaced by General Afrifa. A new constitution was created, marking the Second Republic. The Progress Party, led by Kofi Busia, won the elections that same year. Busia became the prime minister and Chief Justice Edward Akufo-Addo became the president. The party faced economic challenges and devalued the currency in December 1971, leading to inflation. This discontent culminated in a bloodless coup on January 13, 1972, led by Ike Echiyampan, who established the National Redemption Council and later the Supreme Military Council. The NRC or SMC's rule was also marred by mismanagement and corruption, leading to protests and strikes. Echiyampan's arrest in 1978 by General Frederick Akufo resulted in the latter assuming and establishing the SMC-2. Jerry John Rawlings, born on June 22, 1947 to a Ghanaian mother and a Scottish father, served as the country's leader from 1981 to 2001. He graduated from Archimorta College, joined the Ghana Air Force, rising to flight lieutenant. During his service with the Ghana Air Force, Rawlings observed the decline in discipline and morale, indicative of the corruption within the Supreme Military Council's regime. As he advanced in rank, interacting with the privileged classes and their values, his awareness of the injustices in society was sharpened. Rawlings' politics were heavily influenced by his humble beginnings and connection with ordinary citizens, emphasizing his personal experience with poverty and hunger. Just weeks before civilian elections, Rawlings and a group of junior officers attempted to overthrow the SMC, two government led by General Frederick Akufo, on May 15, 1979. The coup failed, and Rawlings was arrested and sentenced to death. When the execution looked imminent, he defended his men, stating, "Leave my men alone. I take responsibility for the actions of my men." His patriotic speeches earned him the nickname Junior Jesus, and because of his popularity amongst the Ghanaian people, there was a public outcry and pressure for his release. On June 4, 1979, a group of junior officers in the military rescued Rawlings, and on that same day, Rawlings led the officers to overthrow the military government of the SMC-2. Its main reason was that the government had failed the country, and the economy was no better with comparisons to the NRC or the SMC government. They also accused the previous governments of corruption and explained that they had defiled the military with their selfish ambitions and behavior. Rawlings used a radio station to announce that he was forming an Armed Forces Revolutionary Council to embark on a house cleaning exercise to address the corruption of military officers from the previous regime. He reassured the people of Ghana that the new council would hold power temporarily until elections could return the country to civilian rule. A number of senior judges and military officers were killed during this period. Rawlings ordered the execution of 8 military officers, including 3 former heads of state. The first two executions, including General Echiampon and Utuka on June 16, 1979, were supported by many Ghanaians. The next round of executions sparked more controversy. It involved two other former heads of state, General Frederick Akufo and General Kwesi Afrifa, who had retired from the military but were seeking political office as civilians. Also included were Major General Kote, a former Army commander, George Yaw Boachi, a former Air Force chief, Colonel Roger Felly, a commissioner for foreign affairs, and Admiral Joy Amadoum, chief of the Navy. They were convicted of the same crimes as General Echiampon and Lt. General Utuka. At the Teshi firing range, there was a lengthy debate among the soldiers on whether to proceed with the execution. It was only after an unidentified soldier in the crowd shouted "Fire" that the shots were fired, resulting in their bodies being hit with bullets. The other terror was when General Afrifa was said to ask for more bullets. People who saw Afrifa's execution said he tried to get up after being shot to declare he was not dead yet, and a soldier walked up to complete the execution. Civil rights groups criticized that Afrifa didn't get a fair trial, but Rawlings said it was needed to prevent more violence. The bodies of the executed officers were buried without a ceremony, but after a request from the widows, their bodies were returned to their families for peace. Special courts sentenced about 150 military officers and businessmen to prison terms. The AFRC collected back taxes from government officials and threatened to take assets unless they returned any stolen money. They also jailed many military officers for corruption, and numerous civil servants lost their jobs during the purge. The country experienced a phenomenon known as kalabule. Kalabule is a term used in Ghana to describe the practice of hoarding goods or engaging in black market trade to make profit during economic hardship. Several factors contributed to the rise of kalabule during Rawlings' tenure. These included economic instability, shortages of essential goods, and a lack of trust in the formal economy. During military coups, market women were blamed for high inflation and were targeted by the government. They were accused of hoarding essential commodities, leading to shortages of goods like soap, sardine, milk, corned beef, building materials, and wax print. As part of the house cleaning exercise, Rawlings ordered the flogging of market women accused of kalabule. Women were positioned on stacks of old car tires for caning. Some were taken from markets at gunpoint for interrogation and punishment at military camps, while others bravely sought out the AFRC to report instances of arbitrary beatings by soldiers, their swollen heads and faces bearing witness to the brutality inflicted upon them. There were instances where local farmers blamed market women for the scarcity of goods and high prices. This blame game created tensions between market women and local farmers, as each group tried to shift responsibility for the challenging economic conditions onto the other. Despite these accusations, both market women and local farmers were essential components of the distribution network, and their cooperation was crucial in ensuring that goods reached consumers. The AFRC recognized the importance of both groups but faced challenges in addressing the issues of hoarding and price control. They initially attempted to enforce price controls by sending soldiers to regulate the market. Rawlings, speaking to a large crowd of market women, emphasized the importance of their role in the country's destiny and urged them not to do anything that would make workers go hungry. However, the military's presence and frequent arrests for hoarding only worsened the situation. The AFRC considered withdrawing soldiers to improve cooperation, but efforts to blame women for the shortages continued, causing public frustration. Curfew hours were typically set in the evening and lasted until the early morning to restrict movement during the night when illegal activities were more likely to occur, but nighttime trading persisted, leading to warnings of harsh consequences for offenders. A faction within the military, pushing for more direct revolutionary action, resulted in the violent demolition of Makola Market in Accra, known to be the hub for malpractices and a key player in setting food prices. Despite warnings, the soldiers destroyed the market, hinting at potential violence spreading through Accra in response to hoarding and profiteering. Kalabule persisted in the country because the underlying economic and structural issues needed to be fully addressed. It was only in later years, with the introduction of more market-friendly policies and improvements in governance, that the practice of kalabule began to decline in Ghana. Despite Ghana's ongoing transition to civilian rule with scheduled general elections, the AFRC conducted an election and transferred power to Dr. Hela Lehman. Rawlings, confident in the continuity of the house cleaning initiated by the AFRC, handed over power a week ahead of schedule on September 24, 1979. Rawlings, while maintaining his popularity, staged a second coup, famously known as the 31st of December Revolution. This overthrow occurred after 2 years of ineffective civilian rule and economic decline under Lehman's government. Rawlings arrested Lehman and accused his administration of driving the country into total economic ruin. This coup marked the conclusion of Lehman's presidency and led to the formation of the PNDC, with Rawlings as its chairman. During his tenure, Rawlings welcomed visits from other revolutionaries and reversed Lehman's decision to boycott Libya, enabling Ghana to participate in the 1982 African Cup of Nations hosted by Libya, a tournament they went on to win. Despite the PNDC claiming to represent the people, it lacked experience in formulating and executing clear economic policies. People were very unhappy with the government because there wasn't enough food and most were out of work. Ghanaians, both skilled and unskilled migrants, sought refuge in wealthy Nigeria for better lives and job opportunities due to the country's 1970s oil boom. In Nigeria, Ghanaians were involved in various sectors of the economy, including trading, retail, and services. Many Ghanaians worked as traders, artisans, tailors, and in other professions. Their contributions were significant to the Nigerian economy, but 1982, a global oil price crash, driven by a recession in the United States and Canada, impacted Nigeria's oil-dependent economy. By 1983, Nigeria was experiencing economic difficulties due to declining oil prices and increased U.S. oil production, resulting in high food prices and delayed salaries. Politicians blamed African migrants, particularly Ghanaians, for the economic challenges, leading to animosity. Tensions rose, and on January 17th, an announcement set a deadline for illegal Ghanaian residents to leave Nigeria by January 31st. President Shehu Shagari, a friend of Hela Lehman, issued an executive order mandating the deportation of West African illegal migrants from Nigeria or face arrest. This resulted in the expulsion of over 2 million illegal migrants. Essentially, Shehu Shagari deported about 1 million Ghanaians due to issues between Ghana and Nigeria, stemming from his friendship with Ghana's former president, Hela Lehman, who was overthrown by Rawlings. Prior to this incident, Nigeria and Ghana had been close allies. The crisis strained diplomatic relations between the two countries, prompting the Ghanaian government to express disappointment and seek international mediation to resolve the conflict. The PNDC introduced a 4-year economic plan to create a state monopoly on export-import trade, aiming to eradicate corruption and decrease reliance on Western markets. Through mobilizing the population, they established workers' defense and people's defense committees to advocate for significant economic changes. While price controls on food sales benefited urban workers, they disproportionately burdened 70% of the rural population whose livelihoods were tied to agricultural prices. Rawlings' economic strategies resulted in a crisis in 1983, compelling him to implement structural adjustments. These programs aimed to stabilize the economy by reducing government spending, promoting privatization, and liberalizing trade policies. While initially leading to some positive outcomes like rural development, SAPs also caused hardships for urban areas. It created disparities between social classes, favoring some groups over others. Various interest groups in Ghana had diverse reactions, with labor unions and student organizations opposing the policies. Overall, the SAPs had mixed outcomes and sparked protests and criticisms from different sectors of society. Rawlings played a crucial role in Ghana's development, drawing inspiration from the economic success of the 4 Asian tigers. In 1992, he left the military and founded the National Democratic Congress. After being in power for 11 years, he announced intentions to transition back to civilian rule. Following his victory in the presidential election, there was unrest due to allegations of rigging by his opponent. However, international monitors deemed the election mostly fair. Despite protests and fraud claims, Rawlings was inaugurated as president on January 7, 1993, with endorsement from international monitors. After being elected president, he consistently focused on advancing infrastructure, healthcare, and education across the country. During the 1990s, Ghana gained recognition as an exemplary model for Africa due to its democratic values, institutions, and thriving economy. He successfully won re-election for a second and final presidential term in 1996. In November 2020, Jerry John Rawlings passed away, reportedly due to COVID-19. His legacy in Ghanaian politics remains a subject of debate. While some criticize him as a military dictator who enforced prolonged political oppression and restricted freedoms, many Ghanaians saw him as a national hero. He is revered, second only to Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah. Particularly, Ghanaians express gratitude to Rawlings for rescuing their country from economic collapse in the 1980s and averting its descent into a failed state. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay tuned for our next upload. See you next time.